Come with me to a magical place where being labeled the pork queen is a compliment, where being nice is just a way of life, and where all leaders of the free world must pass through. Welcome to Iowa. Whether you're a current Iowan, an Iowa expat, or an Iowan at heart, this show is for you. This is the Iowa Podcast. Real Iowans, real talk, no drama. I'm Justin Brady, and today I'm joined by Kevin Foley, the Executive Director of the Des Moines International Airport. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on this show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome, and good morning to you, Justin.
For years now, we've been hearing how Iowa's largest airport, the Des Moines International Airport, will be getting some major changes, but only recently are those changes actually visible from the street now. There's some significant changes, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. But first, have you subscribed yet? There are a lot of ways you can listen to the Iowa Podcast, and I'm not sure where you're listening or how you're listening right now, but what I do know is if you go to iowapodcast.com, right there on the home page are all your favorite podcast player badges. If you click on one of those or tap on one of those, it will take you to your favorite podcast player, and then you can follow or subscribe to the show. By the way, this is a helpful note. We will never, ever charge your credit card for subscribing or following the Iowa Podcast. So subscribe and follow the show today, and that way you're alerted every time we post a new show about Iowa. So I just got back from a trip, and I'm, for business, obviously most people on this show know that this isn't my full-time thing. I have other things I do, but that's a whole nother topic. I just got back, and, I've got to ask this question. Okay, I've got to ask this question. There's a lot we're going to get into today. What are the new alien space age technology things at security? How long should we be there early? What are all the new things popping up at the airport? There's this huge wall going in, tons of crazy stuff changing at the airport. But the first thing I got to ask is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's kind of this friendly running joke about the international part of the Des Moines International Airport. So the first question is the most challenging one. Why do we call the Des Moines International Airport international?
Well, we have 300 or more international flights a year that come in and out of this airport. Now, none of them are commercial flights. They're all general aviation. But if you think about the corporations in the metro and around the metro, a little further out, like Vermeer, Cortiva, Principal, those are all multinational companies. And we have customs here on the field. And so wherever they're coming from, whether it be Europe or South America or some other country, they can come directly back into Des Moines and check through customs here. So they basically come home and check through customs here. And that's what makes us international.
Wow. I actually had no idea. I wasn't entirely sure how you would answer that question. So I had no idea. So now, obviously, it's probably a smaller customs crew because, like you said, we're not doing this for all these major airline carriers. It's mostly like private or smaller jets. So is it just this little traveling group of customs agents that go around at these airports, or are they full-time here in Des Moines?
No, there's two of them, and they are full-time here in Des Moines. Wow. They handle a lot of other things as well, bonded warehouses, those types of activities, visas for students with all of the colleges and universities around the metro. They handle any visa issues there. So they also do the global entry interviews right here in Des Moines. Oh. Now, people are going to complain. They're going to say, yeah, I heard him. He said that they do them here in Des Moines, and I can't get on the schedule. They are the only place in Iowa that does global entry interviews. And when they open up the schedule and they post it 3 months out, it fills almost immediately.
Wow.
I don't know if you can put a watch on that through Google or something, but it very rapidly, the schedule fills up. There's that much demand for it. So, but they do do the interviews here, and if you watch, you'll be able to get scheduled with them for global entry.
So the common, especially in like at least the business community I hang out in, the common retort when someone's like, "Oh yeah, I flew into the Des Moines Airport," and people are like, "The Des Moines International Airport." The next time someone does that, I can actually say, "Well, actually, Des Moines gets 300 or more international flights per year." I can confidently say that now because I heard it right from Kevin Foley, the executive director.
Yeah, those are the last stats I had. And I know post-pandemic or because of the pandemic, corporate activity is actually up quite a bit rather than fly commercial. A lot of corporations are using their corporate aircraft to a greater degree. And so that 300 number may be a little higher than that. It may be up to 350 or closer to 400. But the last stat that I had was 300 a year.
So I'm glad you brought up business travel and, things kind of recovering. You talked about that earlier before we started recording. But, before the pandemic, or I guess I should say right as the pandemic was ramping up and you saw, I know, a mass cancellation of flights. Like, the amount of flights did decrease. Everybody knows that. But a lot of experts were predicting that business travel and travel in general would never, ever recover. Even people like Bill Gates, who, we think he's a smart guy because he started Microsoft. They were predicting that air travel would never, ever return to pre-pandemic levels. Are we at a point where we can say confidently they were all wrong?
No, it has changed. I don't believe that all of the business travel that we had pre-pandemic is back. But I think there has been a change within business travel. And there is a new term out there within the industry called bleisure, and it's a combination of business and leisure travel, where maybe I have a Thursday meeting in Orlando, and it's kind of cold right now, and so I go down for my Thursday meeting, and I tell my wife, "Hey, I'm going to work remotely down there on Friday after this meeting. Why don't you come down Friday evening and we'll spend the weekend in Orlando, get out of the cold weather that's coming here our way." And so it's that combination, it's that mixture of business and leisure travel. As we work remotely, some people have the ability to work from home or from a remote location, but there's a requirement that you get back into the office once a month, or maybe it's once quarterly. That's business travel, although not the type of business travel that we had prior to the pandemic. So it's changed. And I can't tell you that we're back 100%. It is very difficult today to tell if a person is leisure or business because of this bleisure, this combining. And so everybody's in blue jeans or shorts and a t-shirt, where we used to see suits and business dress coming through. Oh,
sure. I mean, but even I did that. Like when I travel quite a bit, and for my job. And I don't know if this is like not what I'm supposed to do, but I'm always in like jeans and a hoodie. That's my travel outfit. Everybody, my travel hack is jeans, a t-shirt, and a full zip hoodie, because as everybody knows, planes can get kind of hot and kind of cold because they have those APU units on the tarmac that sometimes don't do the best job heating or cooling a plane. But then you actually take off, it can get a little chilly. So I just have a full zip hoodie that I can unzip, take off, fully zip, and that seems to regulate my body temperature pretty good when I'm traveling. But I'm hearing that you're being hyper specific with the kind of travel you're seeing. But would you say overall, I think the international numbers I saw in the U.S. were like we passed 80%, like I want to say 6 months ago. Are we past 80% at the Des Moines International Airport now?
Oh, we're well past 80%. In fact, we exceed 2019 levels.
Wow. Okay, great.
On the last half of 2022 here, we're at 2019 levels, or there's been several months in there where we actually exceeded month over month compared to 2019.
Okay, wait. So just to be clear then, it sounds like we have fully recovered then overall flight volume then, right?
We have.
Yeah, okay.
But remember, Allegiant Airlines made us a crew base back in July of 2021.
Mm,
And so there are considerably more destinations on Allegiant and considerably more flights on Allegiant, which you would typically think that those are more leisure flights. Although I do know some people do use them for business as well. But
yeah.
for the most part, those are more typically leisure flights. So when total passenger traffic is back, I just don't know for sure what the mix is between business and leisure.
Right. That is an interesting angle there because as you bring this up, I'm glad you brought up bleisure because I was going to ask you about that. But my wife and I just did this. Like I had a business event in Austria and she came with, and so we ended up hitting Paris on the way back for fun. Which wasn't, that wasn't part of the business trip. But on the way back, we're like, well, what the heck? We're over there. Let's do it. And so what I'm hearing is, and obviously not everyone's reporting to your desk like, Mr. Foley, here's what I'm doing with my business and leisure travel. So you kind of have to make some guesses. But what I'm hearing is my wife and I aren't the only ones doing this. You're seeing this quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. No, it's very, very common today. And not just here in Des Moines. I mean, across the United States, it's very common that this is going on. There is still a feeling. We went for 2.5 years of being shut down, being cooped up, afraid
Right.
to travel, afraid to go out of our houses, working from home, and this pent up demand is still there, and we still have a lot of activity as a result of I'm going. I'm tired of being shut down, and I'm going to travel. I'm gonna go back to a normal life, and so that surge, that demand surge, I think we're still in that mode here.
Right. And a lot of people had this utilitarian approach to travel at the pandemic when it started to curtail a little bit. They were like, well, this is going to, with all the internet things and Zoom, this is going to stop business travel. And I'm like, I don't think the people making these predictions fully understand the culture around business travel. And all you need to do is go watch like Up in the Air with George Clooney. I think it's Up in the Air with George Clooney. And they're like bragging about travel points and frequent flyer miles and lounge access and all this stuff and comparing like, platinum elite travel cards. Like this is actually a real thing. This is the reason conferences happen at exotic, nice locations because people do love to travel. They do love connecting face to face. And at least, unless there's going to be some amazing technological revolution here, I just don't think we're going to replace that. I don't think that's replaceable. I think travel and face to face is important. And like you brought up, now with remote work, the ability to work from anywhere, work on the beach or work from Italy or Paris, you can do that now as long as you're okay with the time change. So are you guys looking at increased demand then for certain cities? Are you looking at that?
What we are, I mean, initially the demand that came back, the first, when the surge came back, it was vacation destinations.
Sure, yeah.
Were the cities that people were wanting to go to, and it affected the legacy carriers. The Americans, Uniteds, and Deltas flights. They had to adjust their schedules because they didn't focus on those vacation cities. They kind of focused on more business travel. But they had to adjust, and not all of our city pairs are back on Delta, for example. We still don't have Salt Lake. We had it, and then they took the flight, they took the plane, and went someplace else. And it will come back. They have guaranteed us, there's still enough demand that connection will come back. But it's their focus had to adjust, and they had to start focusing more on those vacation destinations. So yeah, schedules change. In where we used to be able to count on an airline schedule as far out as maybe 6 months. Today, about a week before that schedule actually goes out for ticket sales is how long we can count on it. I mean, because it's just in constant flux. Uh, and part of that is due to the pilot shortage. Uh,
Right.
yeah, but part of it is the airlines are still adjusting to the demand where people want to fly.
Are we seeing, like, we hear about the pilot shortage quite a bit, but now we had Thanksgiving, and I think the data showed that, like, across all commercial airlines, they only canceled, I had this in my head, but like 2 flights or something crazy. So, like, we hear about the pilot shortage. I know it's a serious issue, but for me as a frequent flyer and traveler, I don't really experience any differences now that I did years ago. So what's up with the pilot shortage? Is it just a coming concern, or from your standpoint, is it actually kind of a nuisance?
It's really kind of a nuisance from my perspective. I Now part of that reason is because our biggest surge, our biggest peak period is early in the morning.
Mm.
And of course, the later in the day your flight is, the more opportunity there is for delay and or cancellation of the flight. So those early morning flights seldom cancel, seldom are they delayed. If they're delayed, typically it's because of weather, and we're pretty good at working around weather. So
Yeah, it's because someone in Chicago sneezed usually.
yeah, um, so from my perspective, it's kind of a nuisance, but it's like everything else. This pilot shortage is it's easing. We're getting more pilots into the system, or what the other thing that's going on is, instead of having a lot of pilots flying regional jets, the airlines are hiring those pilots and putting them into larger airplanes so that we have the
Mm.
same number of seats coming in and out of an airport, but on fewer flights. And that's okay. Um, no, everybody complains about flying on an RJ. They're smaller seats, smaller
Ah,
airplanes. I can't get my bag in the overhead bin, and I
yep.
have to gate check it, and so on and so forth. But it does decrease the opportunity to fly. Instead of having 4 flights, for example, throughout the day, maybe I only have 2 flights, many more seats on that airplane. So the same number of seats going to that city pair that I'm talking about, but I only have 2 options as to when I fly. And of course, one of them most likely will be between 5:30 and 7 o'clock in the morning, those early morning flights.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up the CRJ 500s and 700s. And I remember the time when flying in and out of Des Moines, that's all we got here. CRJ 500s and 700s, tiny little planes. And more these days, we're flying bigger and bigger planes into Des Moines. I would say over half the time we're riding 737s into Des Moines, like those bigger, 3x3 in the back, and then the 2x2 first class up front. So it's clearly a lot more volume going in and out of Des Moines. I think I was looking at a flight here in January, and I was looking at all the aircraft going in and out for these flights, and I don't think I could find one CRJ. It was all 737s. So yeah, obviously the volume is substantially increasing. So I want to get into this new thing, this new entrance, and anybody driving by on Fluor, even if you're not going to the airport, it is dramatically changed. What's up with the new entrance? Is that like permanent? And what's up with this huge, it's like almost like a wall being built where the old entrance used to be. What's up with this stuff?
So it is permanent. You're absolutely right. We do have a new entrance, and it's at a stoplight now. And that's part of the reason for moving the entrance, was to get both the entrance and the exit on a stoplight. So we're not backing traffic up like we on the floor like we were before. And the other reason is if you remember the old entrance, that as soon as you got on the airport property, you had to start making decisions. There was a turn to the right in a parking lot over there. It was an employee parking lot. But was also the entrance to Signature Flight Support, to one of the general aviation facilities. And you just went a little ways further, and There was a road that went left and a little ways further, and the entrance to the parking garage was there. And while we're familiar with the airport because we live here and we fly out of here, and so we're very familiar with the airport, we pull from a much larger distance than what we used to. We pull passengers from 2 to 2.5 hours away who maybe only fly once a year or twice a year, and they're not familiar with the airport. And that immediate decision making, I mean, they would literally stop to try to figure out where is it that I want to go, and they would have to read that signage. This new entrance allows us to spread the decision points out. It spreads them out to a greater degree, so that instantaneous decision making on where I'm going doesn't happen like it did before. So phase one was completed and opened up well over a year ago. And we're in phase two now of the entrance road. And it was supposed to be done this fall. Obviously, they're not going to make it. But the wall that you're talking about is actually a retaining wall for the entrance road. So the elevation, the road will actually elevate and come up in front of the terminal, or there's a circle on this road when it's all done, and then it'll come down fairly close to floor and then come underneath the tunnel. You may be able to see it kind of a tunnel.
Yeah, okay.
And that will become the entrance to the parking garage.
So this is you spreading out, like what you said earlier, spreading out the decisions that customers have to make as they're coming into the airport.
Correct. Yes.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, it looks really sophisticated, whatever's going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of earthwork moving, and with that wall and that tunnel there. Now it's going to be a little while before the road actually gets completely done, because that next spring we will begin construction on an expansion to the parking garage, 1,100 spaces.
Wow.
Added on to the north end of the garage, and that tunnel actually becomes the entrance to that construction work. So the road won't be completed until after the garage is built, and then we'll finish that road and that loop so that it becomes the entrance to the parking garage. But the road that will eventually be the road that comes right in front of the new terminal, that portion of it will open here next summer when they get all wrapped up.
Interesting. I mean, I will say, like, I was a little confused at first because I usually come from 235 south on Fleur down to the airport. That's usually my route. And I kind of liked the off-ramp style, didn't have to stop at a light, got right in really quick. However, you are right. There were a lot of decisions, and there were decisions I don't have to make because I fly out of there all the time. It was easier for me. But the bigger picture was that it was probably causing a lot of delays, and people were going the wrong way and gumming up the works, is what it sounds like.
Yes.
Now, I know that there's more going on in this long-term plan than just a parking garage and a new roads, right? Like, I believe there was talk of adding a new terminal or a new wing or something. I mean, what are the full scope of the changes happening in the next, I think it's like 2 to 5 year plan or something?
So it is, completed right now. The schedule is by 2028, and it is a whole new terminal. Under design right now is the primary processing plant. It's what they call the head house, and what that does is the ticket counters, passenger screening, bag screening, and the bag claim area, and that's where we have the worst congestion right now and the longest lines. Not to say that our hold rooms where we wait to board airplanes aren't packed and congested, but passengers take care of themselves. They will stand. They will find a plug-in the hallway of the concourse. Possibly sit on the floor in the concourse for one of those plug-ins. So we had to identify, because of inflation, we had to identify what's the worst congestion area that we have, and it's in the passenger processing, that initial processing. point. And so that is what's under design right now. There'll be 6 gates on the back side of it, and we're still working on funding. Um, but if you remember back in 2018, to build 14 gates, total cost was supposed to be $406 million.
My word.
Today, just to build the head house and 6 gates, the estimated cost on that's $411 million. So that's what inflation has done to
Wow.
us.
Well, what if we don't use the mother of pearl and gold staircases, though?
Well, yeah, those have already been cut, I assure you. And
funny.
in fact, originally there was a 3rd floor, and that's where the admin offices were going to be. And the admin offices have been cut, and we're still figuring out exactly where admin will be located. And again, I am old enough. I always knew that I would not move into a new office. This is my office, and I'll retire out of this office. And we have a plan now, I believe, that where admin will be located, and they won't be located in the new terminal. We're going to use a portion of the existing terminal and rehab it for administration offices.
I mean, it sounds like in the interim, it's going to be card tables and fold-out chairs for any new admin people. Just for now, guys.
Pretty much, they come last, unfortunately.
Most frequent travelers out of Des Moines are familiar with terminals A and B. You go left or right, which honestly is kind of nice. It's like the whole airport system in the United States is kind of like it's this weird. Once you clear security one spot, you're in the system. You don't have to clear it again unless you go to like Newark has some issues every once in a while. But it is nice that it's very easy to get through Des Moines, and you go left or right. It's A and B. Is that going to change? Are we adding a C, or are we just extending A and B?
Temporarily, we are going to have a bridge that connects into the old concourses. So it's A and C. We don't have a B.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
It's A and C. And we're still trying to work out a naming convention, because, you'll walk through, get screened, and there'll be gates right there, but then there'll be a bridge connecting over to the existing concourses. The rest of the terminal will be torn down, but we are going to have to use the existing concourses, especially in the early morning push. That early morning peak period. The biggest problem that I see that we face is we're running out of room to park airplanes around the terminal. And if I can't, we're courting airlines all the time, trying to get additional flights to additional cities, trying to get any new airlines that might be out there to come in and provide service to Des Moines. And if we can't park the airplane on a gate, especially in that early morning peak period, it becomes a barrier to entry. They start looking at it, and the number of gates that we have is very, very important, and this gets us up to the number of gates that we need, at least in the short term. And then as funding becomes available, we'll continue to build new gates and expand the new part of the terminal and tear down the old concourses.
Right. I think a lot of people don't understand that the gates just aren't willy-nilly. Your air traffic control, they don't just randomly pick gates. I think I don't know what the right terminology is, Kevin, but don't you lease gates to certain airlines? That's kind of their gates?
Well,
something like that. I don't know how it works exactly.
Yeah, not anymore. We're what's called common use, and so we can put any airline on any gate.
Oh, interesting.
But you are right. I mean, as long as we have a solid schedule, we do assign gates to the airline so that they know exactly where they're going, and they have their equipment there, and so on and so forth. That allows us to utilize our infrastructure to a greater extent. In the old days, to your point, they used to be exclusively leased to an airline. And if the airline had 6 flights and an hour in between each flight, the gate sat there empty for that hour. Yep. They controlled it. And again, that became a barrier to entry.
Got it.
With
so that changed.
We control that now. And if that
Okay.
gate's empty for that hour, we can put another airline on the gate.
Yeah, and you obviously had to do that because if you're, trying to get more planes into the airport and people are just sitting on gates forever, that doesn't work for you at all. So I didn't know that change. That's really cool. Before I let you go, just two real quick questions. Can we like lower the time to, because I have TSA pre, so I get there. I mean, maybe I shouldn't tell you this, but I get there like a half an hour sometimes before my flight. I sail right through security. Usually, I think my record from door, I don't really check bags that often, so my record for door to gate, I think, is like 3 minutes. I think that's my record right now. Maybe 4, but I mean, even on times when I feel like it looks a little busy, security moves pretty quickly. Some places you read, it's like they're saying show up like 3 hours early. Can we confidently say yet an hour is good enough?
No.
No, come on. Come on.
I'm going to say an hour and a half, especially if you don't have global entry or pre-check.
Okay.
Uh, you know, some of the congestion areas, some of the delay areas. I'm sure, Justin, you think you know exactly where you're going to park, and yet one of the congestion areas that we're encountering now is all of our parking up around the terminal here fills up.
Oh, so you're telling people that, so part of that extended time of showing up early includes them like arriving at their car at the airport. You're adding in time for them to find parking spots.
Absolutely.
Oh, so what's the time we should all expect from, I should be at the front door of the airport ready to go? How much time do I need to get through? What does Kevin Foley, executive director, recommend?
Well, again, if you don't have pre-check,
Sure.
then I'm going to tell you need to be there at least an hour, because we're encountering lines. We have a lot of people who are flying who haven't flown for a long time, and we know this because they're still trying to bring 12-ounce bottles of shampoo or those types of things through. The amount of liquids that are confiscated up at the TSA checkpoint today is much greater than it was pre-pandemic.
Wow. Interesting. And they're still trying to bring their fireworks and their katanas. And it's always funny to look at the list of banned items. And I'm like, guys, who's bringing all this stuff? Stop it. Yeah. Stop bringing all this stuff.
And
oh,
my word. Screening down in those lanes tremendously. Because now we got to pull them aside and inspect bags and pull this material out. And so that really slows it down.
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
If you have pre-check, you know what you're doing. You're going to sail right through. Typically, there's no issues there. But I got to tell you, we flew up to see my daughter a couple months ago, and my wife was bound and determined to take a taffy apple from Storybook Chocolate up to her. She likes Storybook Chocolate. So, and she put it in her carry-on luggage because that's all we had. We didn't check anything. And I told her not to put it in there. But she did. And she got pulled aside, going through pre-check. She got pulled aside and inspected. And they didn't take the apple. They gave it back to her. But they said, it's got a stem on it. It's round. It's got this stem. It looks like something suspicious. So, the best of intentions there. My daughter did get her taffy apple, but
that's good.
My wife had to go through some extra screening to get it there.
Oh, my word. That's hilarious. I accidentally left a pair of pliers in my bag once, and they were really upset that I brought pliers on the plane. And I wanted to ask the guy, what do you think I'm going to do with this thing? Disassemble the aircraft one little micro screw at a time? Yeah. But, they didn't, they had a problem with the pliers, I guess. So really quick, we're over time, but I have one 15-second question for you. What is the one thing you do when you fly that no one else does? Like, what's that big travel hack?
Oh, I'm an experienced traveler, so any experienced traveler would do anything that I do. But I try to make sure I have no metal. I take everything out of my pockets and put it into my carry-on bag as I'm going through screening. So I sail right through screening, and like everybody else, I go directly to my gate to make sure that the plane's there and that everything's on time. The one thing I don't do is I don't show up 15 minutes before my flight and try to make the flight because I am always worried about catching a line, and so I've seen it develop so very, very quickly. But I do try to show up at least an hour before departure.
Well, I appreciate the soft correction there, Mr. Foley. I appreciate that. Kevin Foley, Executive Director of the Des Moines International Airport. Thank you so much for coming on the Iowa Podcast.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Justin.
And to my fellow Iowans, Iowa expats, and Iowans at heart, thanks for listening and subscribing to the Iowa Podcast.